It'd be interesting to hear to understand why Cna does what it does in terms of real estate and how this fits with our overall corporate responsibility strategy and indeed our core values. So in other words, what we do and why we do it. But just to pick up on the point of Michael McBrien, let there be no misunderstanding about who I am. I am not a buildings expert. I am not a finance expert, which probably means I'm in a minority of one amongst this group here today. My career is in fact mainly built around buying and sourcing of clothing. But however, I was allowed to set the context a little bit by talking a little bit about the overall corporate responsibility at Cna, which is territory on which I'm pretty familiar with. And just for any of those who, for example, come from North America, who are we? We're one of Europe's leading clothing retailers. We've got 1,410 stores as of today, and opening another 120 during 2011. 36,000 employees. We're in 19 different European countries, 450 buyers and designers, and more than 2 million customers coming through the stores every day. A most valuable brand. We've in fact won that title for the last 5 years in Germany, which is our biggest market. And the first store was opened in 1841, not so far from here. So we celebrate 170 years today. So therefore we've got continuity. It's a family business. The family have been running this, and the family Brenningmeier have been running the company, now on the 5th generation. Now obviously over a period of time the company developed a number of clear values. I just mentioned a few here: honesty, respect, reliability. That's not just within the company, but in fact the way we deal with our business partnerships as well. Very important, I think, when it comes to real estate especially. It's a company which takes a long-term view on business issues and relationships. And it's a business which sets high standards of ethics and social responsibility. Again, not just for ourselves, but for our supply partners as well. It'd be impossible to see the detail here on the screen, but basically the red box is Sustainable Business Development. That's the department I head. The blue box is the Corporate Responsibility Monitoring Group, which I chair. And essentially, those two components report directly to the CEO at Cna. So this says where corporate responsibility stands at Cna. It's not just a peripheral or bolt-on department on the side of the company. It's central to the way that Cna does its business. So in this business department, there are a few main tasks I have: corporate social affairs, essentially stakeholder engagement. We have a whole range of partnerships today, particularly involving people where we don't have the expertise in issues such as water, for example. SOCAM is our auditing company which audits the behavior of our suppliers in the supply markets. And we have a global audit team based in around 10 different countries, mainly in Asia, of course. Corporate giving, it's something that Cna rarely talks about, but each time for example, we open a new store in Europe, we already donate a sum to the local mayor for a charity of his choosing, and then the staff in those stores, for example, also get involved with local projects which they would like to see the local company associate itself with, and they have budgets to do this as well. And then finally, environmental affairs. I'm responsible for the strategy of the environment, particularly in the supply chain, and I coordinate the activities when it comes to issues such as the buildings. And our 4 key constituencies, first of all, are our customers, of course. And what's important for them is that we deliver to them a safe product, free of harmful substances. It's our supply partners, to ensure that we have good working conditions in the Cna supply chain. That is a real challenge in a clothing supply chain, I can tell you. For our employees, we have to be a good company to work for, and key stakeholder groups to work with us in areas where we do not have expertise, such as I've mentioned before, water management. We have 3 priorities in this particular department at the moment, and I don't call it triple P, but I call it product, environment, and people. So whenever anyone joins the company, I give them what I call this little pep talk. And on the product, we're talking in the main on cotton and chemicals. Cotton represents 40% of our inputs. It's our biggest single fabric we use. And most consumers still think of cotton as being natural, cuddly, clean, etc. It's not, it's filthy. But in fact, if you start cultivating your cotton organically, which is what we're doing increasingly at CNA, you can make a big difference to the environmental harm which is otherwise caused. So CNA actually is, from 2010, is the biggest user of certified organic cotton in the world, something we're very proud of. And already this year, something like 16% of our total cotton purchase will be certified organic. When I tell you that only 1% of the world's cotton is certified organic, it will show you how far above that we have already gone. Chemicals. Very important, as I said earlier, that we screen out all harmful chemicals. And there's a lovely piece of legislation in Europe called the REACH legislation, which every year gets more onerous in terms of what cannot be in product. So it's essential that we keep all of those harmful chemicals out of our supply chain. The environment, now our focus here is water. And we have a partnership here in Holland with the Water Footprint Network. And they're helping us, for example, to map our water footprint throughout our whole supply chain. As well as we're conducting some iconic studies with them, comparing, for example, the quality of grey water or polluted water associated with conventional farming and comparing it with organic farming. Logically, organic farming should be far more healthier in terms of water, the runoff which is created. We're about to prove that point, I think, and that will be a very powerful tool when we're negotiating with governments who have a real problem with water in their countries. And lastly, people, conditions in the supply chain and the living wage, a topic I won't go into today, but is a key topic for all clothing retailers. So that's a little bit about the corporate responsibility priorities of CNA. It doesn't mean, when I didn't mention buildings on the environment, that that's not important, but the fact is probably 10% of our impact in terms of our overall environmental impact is actually here in Europe, our direct impact. 90% is either in the supply chain or with the final consumer. That's why the focus here on water in the supply chain. So I'm most comfortable here when I'm talking about this sort of stuff. It's a product we sell in our stores. And all of these goods are coming to a store near you in the next couple of weeks, and they're all certified organic cotton. However, I'm asked to step outside of my comfort zone. And what we'll do here to introduce the topic of green buildings is to talk about our Eco store in Mainz in Germany. Now, apart from the ecological aspects, I'll come on to those in a minute, the building sent out an important architectural statement as well in terms of its design. So the external walls are covered with stainless steel panels, for example, and we have this two-story, 35-meter wide showcase, as well as, in fact, photovoltaic system both here on the walls and on the roof. Now, it wasn't chosen, this particular store, as being a worst offender in terms of its energy usage, but in fact, it was ideal from the size. It's 6,500 square meters, which allowed us actually to experiment with quite a lot of new technology when we refurbished this store. We could have chosen to build a brand new store as a sort of showcase, an exhibition thing, but we didn't want to do that. Realistically, most of the store buildings we deal with today are refurbishments. We don't move easily from one place to another, and therefore it's the refurbishment process which is more important here. So, we opened this store in 2008. It was first built in 1961. And it's actually carbon neutral. And the energy consumption in 2009, little mistake there, was reduced by 41% over the previous year. And the heating energy consumption within that was reduced by 87%. The Eco Store's ventilation technology was completely renewed. The new system reduces the air intake by 75% without impacting on the quality. And the building's electricity supply is covered by hydroelectric power. And in addition, we have these 900 square meters of photovoltaic system on the roof and the facade, which together produce 93,000 kilowatts of electricity a year. So the store is CO2 neutral as a result. Now, there were quite a few other innovations in this design. So, for example, a double set of doors at the entrance. Many retail stores, you'll see them are completely open, with losing a lot of heat, using a lot of energy. It has double glazed windows, which, believe it or not, is very unusual in shops. It has a new lighting concept, which we developed together with Philips here in Holland. And that has helped us to reduce substantially the amount of energy used in our lighting, which is 50% of our total energy bill. So the outcome was that the building was tested in accordance with the European BREEAM standard and got a very good rating. And in relation to the German ENEV standard, which I believe is the latest German energy-saving regulation for new buildings, this building, believe it or not, performs better than the regulation which now exists for new buildings. Now, to those of you in the finance community, and if I can preempt your question, whether this investment is part of a normal investment strategy, and the answer is clearly not. Mainz allowed us to use a whole set of different technologies, which were not necessarily easy to replicate elsewhere, but we wanted to use this opportunity to test these various technologies to see what really worked and what could be replicated. Now, as part of our overall CSR strategy, we aim to be one of the leading 5 companies in the European retail sector in a number of areas. And just to say where this takes us as far as the sustainability of buildings are concerned, 400 of our stores, which actually equates to 2/3 of our entire sales area, are already being supplied with renewable energy. Our target is to push that even higher. We managed to save around 100,000 tons of CO2 in 2008 as a result of the switch to renewable energy. And by 2010, last year, we were saving more than 200,000 tons of CO2 per year in relation to 2007, when we first started. And I mentioned this environmentally friendly lighting system with Philips. It's now in 700 of our stores. And in Germany alone, that means a replacement of 262,000 lights, which will help to save around 12 million kilowatt hours compared to the former lighting system. These are just some of the achievements. Now, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and this is looking Edgar, looks as though he enjoys his puddings as well. But this is our facility manager in Echo, of our Echo store Mainz, who says we must all be fully aware of the fact that electricity just doesn't come out of the socket. This is why he really welcomes projects like the Echo store. And the motivation for our employees, particularly in this store as a result of what we did, cannot be underestimated. So moving on from Mainz, I'd like to talk a little bit about the cooperation between Cna and Redevco. Redevco actually is another Brenningmeier family company which handles the property development side. And actually we've started sharing our data, Cna and Redevco. Why? That's because both of us would like to have a clear idea of energy and our water use in order to calculate eventually our energy efficiency, our carbon intensity, and our water efficiency. And we want to do that for all the properties which Cna rents from Redevco, because we both want to work together to improve the overall sustainable performance of the asset. And continuing the theme of why data sharing, it will allow us to compare and benchmark buildings' performance across the whole portfolio. It will allow us to measure year-on-year environmental improvement and report on that. It will allow us to demonstrate that Cna is a responsible environmental citizen. It will allow us to promote stakeholder engagement and to provide a link between environmental and financial performance. The two are not mutually exclusive. This will allow us to get better understanding of the business case leading to the creation of a future joint and financially sound real estate strategy. And the CEOs of Cna and Redevco have committed to move in this direction. Cna and Redevco are both founding members of the International Sustainability Alliance. Maybe many of you in the audience today are perhaps members yourselves. Cna is the only retailer, as far as I understand, who is a member. And for those who may not have heard of it, the ISA is a global network of leading corporate occupiers, investors, developers, and owners. It's dedicated to achieving a more sustainable building environment through better measurement and understanding of the sustainable performance of buildings. Members, including ourselves, update our property data to a database which is hosted by the BRE Trust. And the objectives of this alliance basically are to develop appropriate KPIs, and I think there are about 10 of those currently. It's to promote scientifically based research into sustainability in the building environment particularly. It's to allow us to pool, compare and benchmark reliable performance data. Now this could be at building level, portfolio level, national or international level, against all building types and against other peer groups. It's also there to help create knowledge and share best practice, and to help to improve the quality of regulation, and finally to provide a simple route to certification through buildings in use. So in terms of our next steps, refurbishments, there's now a joint working group as a result of what happened in Mainz between Cna Germany and Redevco Germany, which has been established to improve the environmental performance of the worst performing stores, those whose kilowatt hours per square meter on gross lettable area is more than 235. And the target is to improve energy performance of all such stores in Germany within 4 years. A framework has also been drawn up beyond that this goes well beyond Cna Germany and Redevco Germany, and in the end will involve the whole group, Cna Europe and Redevco Europe. And I just want to show you here, coming to an end, an example of a new development which is in Turkey, built by Redevco, and we're there as well. And this BREEAM assessment was carried out and was given a very good performance there. Just a few shots of that same centre. And one very satisfied customer. And I hope at the end of the day I've given you a little flavour of what it is, or why it is Cna does what it does in the real estate, and why. Thank you very much.